Welcome to 28 and Searching. I'm your host, Samantha, and today I have Erin Brindley on my show. Thanks for coming on, Erin.
Hi there, how are ya?
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How old are you? Where are you located? How long have you been in your industry? That sort of thing.
I'm 40 years old. I live in Seattle, Washington. And depending on how you count, I've been in my industry since I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you started early. Is it a family business type thing?
Well, I'm in the theater, so I count the time when I was in ballet class.
Okay, there we go. And so what exactly is your job title and what does it mean that you do?
I'm the artistic director and chef of Cafe Nordo, which is an immersive dining theatrical experience. So
Okay.
we integrate theater and food, create an immersive environment. Our audience comes in, a show unfolds with live music and food that's been designed to help tell the story.
Wow, okay. That sounds very unique. Is that a common type of entertainment that you can find
As
in other areas?
as far as I know, we're the only ones doing it. Although there are other dinner theaters in the world for sure, but no one that's quite integrating the food in the creative way that we are.
So walk me through a little bit because I've never been through one of these, and I'm sure a lot of listeners probably haven't either. So what exactly is the experience when you go to Cafe Nordo, right?
Cafe Nordo, yes. So before you arrive, you are given an email that tells you what the era is that we're located in. Like right now, we're doing a show that happens in the future in 2046. So the email gives you an idea of like what the fashion of 2046 would be. So a lot of our audiences dress up for the night.
Okay.
They arrive. All of the servers and the people who greet them at the door are all in character, and the world is about a 2,000 square foot immersive dining room.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it's the whole thing. We have a space in um, uh, the historic district of Seattle called Pioneer Square. And the space transforms completely depending on what show we're doing. So one time it might look like an Art Deco bar, and currently it looks like a kind of an experimental laboratory in the future.
Okay, okay.
So you walk in, like I say, our current show Oniris is in 2046. The setup is that it's 2046, and we're all connected to the internet through a sync disk in our brain. And the side effect is that we've stopped dreaming. So our
Oh.
audience are all people who are there to experience an organic dream that's going to be uploaded from somebody who's not connected to the internet, a deviant.
Wow.
So yeah, so the food in the very first course of food is something that you might receive at a future spa. Then the story begins, and as the story unfolds, we experience dreams both through the food and as well as the music and and video installation and all of that. So, and then it comes to a climax at the end, and then we serve dessert, and everyone's good and boozy, and it's yeah. So
Wow.
it's actors, musicians, playwright, designers, lighting designers, set designers, costume designers, the whole mashugana, along with this food that's kind of woven in.
Oh my goodness, that sounds fascinating. That sounds like a good time. So, what's your role in this very unique setting?
So I direct the shows. I conceive of the shows with my partner, who is the playwright and the scenic designer.
Hmm.
So we do the concept together. He goes and writes the script. I cast the show, bring in the actors, work with the designers to create the story, and then also I create the menu, and then I teach the kitchen staff how to make it, and that's the main things that I do. But of course, there's also with every small business, and we're a nonprofit, there's also tons of running of the business that goes along with it too. So that's there's some executive director stuff I do as well. That's got a
Sure.
pretty long title.
Yeah, and with not-for-profits especially, I mean, everybody kind of needs to do more than their own job
Oh yeah.
to make it all work. So, how did you get into this? Where did this come from?
Well, I have a degree from NYU in acting,
Okay.
and I was an actor. I was an actor, really, dancer and actor my whole life, and got the degree and was kind of pounding the pavement as an actor, and really just at one point decided, now this I gotta be in charge. So I began directing. So I've been directing theater since since I was probably 23. A few years after that, I started a theater company in New York City
Mm-hmm.
called Ripple Productions. At the time, I was dating madly in love with a chef, and he was a cook at some of the best restaurants in New York. So I kind of was introduced to fine dining through him, and we did a couple of collaborations in New York together, integrating food and theater, and people really liked them. And
Sure.
I was like, I thought it was like, this is a gimmick. I want to do serious. I want to do serious theater. So I spent the next few years after that continuing to do some really serious theater that nobody wanted to see. And then, then a little meandering tale later, and I end up in Seattle, doing more food theater and doing the food myself. So.
Okay. And so is Cafe Nordo your creation, or did you take it from somebody, or do you work for, or does somebody else, or how did you get into that place particularly?
So Terry Podgorski, who's my producing partner, and he's the writer and scenic designer.
Mm-hmm.
We had been working together at a company called Circus Contraption in Seattle before this.
Okay.
And that was an ensemble of like a nouveau circus ensemble. Very, very cool music and non-animal circus arts kind of thing. Very avant-garde. And I had moved from New York and taken a job with Circus Contraption and met him. And Circus Contraption was an ensemble that had been around for 11 years. They were all pretty much ready to move on. So it kind of burst into, I don't know, we kind of think of it as like a dandelion bursting in the wind. And a few of the people went with us, and a lot of people went in a lot of other directions. But Terry and I really wanted to continue working together, and brought our composer Anastasia along, and turned the stage manager into an actor, and here we are.
Okay.
That was in 2000. So technically the company that we are under is Ripple Productions, the company that I started in New York in 2003.
Okay.
And then I brought that nonprofit over to Seattle in 2009 to start Cafe Nordo.
Okay. So Cafe Nordo's actually been in Seattle since 2009?
Yes.
Okay, crazy. All right. That's awesome. So, okay, so there's a couple of different elements in here, and so I'm going to kind of piece through them a little bit to help my listeners kind of understand the different aspects of what you're doing.
Sure.
So when you're looking at either being in the arts, right? Because I mean, you do cook food and you do serve food, but this is really a theater. This is an entertainment industry, is basically what you're in. So in the entertainment, if you were to go and do something like what you're doing, would you need a degree to be in that type of position?
It absolutely not, but it does help.
Okay.
My partner doesn't have a degree. He went to, I think he did like 3 3/4 years of college.
Okay.
But experience can certainly make up for it. And we know a lot of people in our industry that don't have degrees. It's just a lot of hard work, and the degree definitely helps you make the contacts. But other than that,
okay,
you can learn it on your own.
And when you look at the chef side of this, you're doing a fine dining, but have you been classically trained?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So you've picked it up. So this isn't something that you necessarily have to have the on paper credentials to do.
Nope.
Okay.
Definitely not. No.
And so when you're hiring people to work for Cafe Nordo, do you look for degree or do you look for experience?
Experience is first, for sure. Degree can be helpful. Like I really like working with actors that, in particular, that have, training in their background. They have just a lot more skills to offer. But that doesn't necessarily make them the most talented by any stretch. And I've worked with plenty of actors who have no training who are great.
Okay. And so if somebody wanted to get into the entertainment industry, if they're looking like they've got an idea and maybe they don't want to do dinner theater, maybe they want to be, in acting, or maybe they want to do whatever else, other type of entertainment situation like you have. What would be a good starting point for them to take on, to gain some skill sets that would be able to move over to doing this?
For me, I can see the culture has changed a little bit from when I was coming up, but I do think that there's value in how I did it, which is once I was out of school, I was volunteering to do any job in any theater as a volunteer. I just wanted to learn how it worked.
Sure.
So that went from, doing concessions at the teeny theater down the street to eventually my day job doing box office at one of the off-Broadway theaters in New York. So I kind of just tried to get under the hood and understand how production works, and basically would do just about anything for free for anyone who would teach me anything. And the intern system, I think, has been so abused that now people really do want the hourly for the work.
Yeah.
Which I completely understand. And at the same time, I could not value more what I learned by just hustling my way in, and how many great contacts I made over the years in all volunteer run stuff. So for what that's worth.
And is there a lot of opportunity to volunteer in theatrics?
Oh, yeah. Anything from, like I say, the easiest one is being an usher or working concessions. And then on top of that, learning how to build a set or hang a light, or even just so much of theater is just schlepping heavy things from one side of the room to another. So getting that up. Exactly.
Built up.
Exactly. My partner likes to say that on his gravestone, it's going to say, "Here lies Terry. He carried things." But really getting in there on the ground up, and I'm always surprised, but I shouldn't be, at how folks who work their way in on the lower level become so invaluable that eventually you really want to reward them with better jobs. So
yeah, sure.
Oftentimes we end up, the folks who come in as interns or whatever, we do end up hiring, and then they become longtime staff members of ours.
Yeah.
So, because that's just how it works.
And I feel like this industry, if somebody's interested in it, and they can be teenagers, because I have a nephew who's 15 who actually wants to volunteer to do, like in Halloween, do the, scary forests and stuff, to be a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's also something that somebody can start based on what you're saying, is that somebody could do those things when they're teenagers and still gain some of the experience to see if it's something they like to do.
Absolutely. And honestly, even beyond that, I would say if you're interested in making theater, being it from an acting perspective or a directing perspective or a writing perspective, the best thing you can do is just do it. Just get some friends, grab a play off the shelf, or write a play, much better yet, write a play yourselves, and find someone's basement and get 20 of your friends in there to watch it. Because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
That's how you start practicing and flexing the muscle of both art and entertainment.
And so you've taken food and put it together with actors. So have you found that they're very similar types of people enjoy working in those positions?
Well, it's funny you should say that. Yes, it's definitely the kind of band of misfit toy kind of people.
Okay.
It's not, I think you can say pretty consistently that the people who are attracted to the theater and the people who are attracted to a life of professional cooking are usually not people who were cheerleaders or football players.
Sure, yeah.
They're kind of the nerdy folks who maybe took a bit longer to find their way. The only difference, and these are huge generalizations, but I have fun with them, is that the kids who ended up in the kitchen were much more likely to be on the smoking corner than the theater kids who always had really good grades. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, but other than that, it's a very, very similar. And because I think that what the thing is it's a lot of kids who are drawn to the kind of family atmosphere.
Sure.
That, like, how intimate it gets, both in a crazy kitchen or in a theatrical production. you really make friends fast, and people really do take care of one another in such a way. So I think that's the draw.
Yeah, and I have actually interviewed a professional food server who talked about how they have to, it's kind of like an act, right? Because they have to keep,
Absolutely.
yeah, they have to keep all their like real emotions inside when things happen, and they have to
Hmm.
provide a service. So I feel like I could see the correlation between the two actually coming into play. And then there's the other, you know, off schedules and that sort of thing that go along with both careers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't heard very often about people combining the two.
And actually, when you asked, I was thinking more of like the actual cooks and things like that, because all of our people who are serving the food are all the actors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have to do double duty. And so, sometimes they'll cast an actor and they just will not, take to it. It's will have a run and they're just miserable. But for the most part, people who like to perform like to please people
Yeah.
and make sure people are having a good time, and oftentimes have a wit and a personality that makes them great at a table.
Sure.
So it does. Those skills definitely do cross over.
And so when we're looking at theater, what's the market like for people looking for jobs? Is it super competitive? Is it, is it kind of you have to know somebody, or what's it kind of look like for the job market?
It's incredibly competitive. It's for pretty much any element of it, from designers to directors to actors. Very, very few people make their living doing it full time.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who do are working their butts off constantly.
Sure.
But it's not impossible. It's just it is a huge commitment, and there's a lot of sacrifice that goes along with it.
Sure. And so if somebody, since it is so competitive, what are going to be the personality traits that really stand out that somebody has to have to succeed?
Uh, Being completely prepared sets people apart for sure. Someone who has their designs in on time or knows their lines before anyone else in the room, something like that. So the production knows that we can count on you.
Mm-hmm.
Attitude is probably 80% of it, because there are so many people trying to make something happen, and so many technical things that can go awry, or scheduling things that can go awry. People who come in, leave their day at the door, can come in with a really good attitude and ready to work no matter what, and don't bring drama into the room. That's the irony, is like the worst the worst thing you can do is bring drama into a room, because everyone is just in this crucible trying to make magic happen, and everyone just, the folks who can stay are super focused. And then on top of that, it's just really, really hard work, and nothing comes easy. And the kind of attitude that one of these days someone's going to find me and I'm going to be a star, it just doesn't work. Like, the business does not work like that.
Yeah,
The stars are the people who have worked and taken all the blows and heard all the no's, and maybe had a success at one point and really thought they made it, and then had another 5 years where they didn't book a job.
yeah.
It just is it's a very long ride.
Yeah, I've
And
heard once somebody say to me that there is no such thing as an overnight success.
no.
Like you may know that person overnight, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't see the 10 years prior that they put
No,
in all
and
the
it's
work.
everything. It's from working your craft and making sure you're going to classes, when you're not when you're not booked in anything, that you're keeping your skill set up. And it's from doing that to making sure that you see stuff all the time, if not only because you're then having other performances inform your art, but so you can start getting to know the people that are making the art.
Yeah.
And even though you want to sit on your couch and watch Netflix, you got to go out and do the thing and
Yeah.
meet the people. And then, having the curiosity of asking people for not only for help, but for, I don't know, if you like someone's work, reaching out and telling them that, it makes a huge difference and a huge impact in them remembering you later. So really remembering it's not all about you, it's
Yeah.
about the not only, I want to say the community because it's not quite that, but it's about the work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, it's almost like you have to have a sense of humility.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which
People
is
who,
the exact opposite of what you think an actor or an actress would need.
a little bit of both though. You have to have a sense of humility, and then you also have to have the ego to withstand constant rejection,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which are, boy, those are two things. That's a combo.
That's a fight, yeah, absolutely. And so if we're talking about you personally, what is the one trait that has made you successful where you've owned this place since 2009, 2017? What do you think is the one thing that stands out about you?
I am very, very good at convincing talented people to do things.
That's an important skill set.
That is it. You know, I am able to know who's talented and lovely to work with. I have a sixth sense about that. And I really don't allow people who are going to bring the process down around. Like, I've got a good sniffer if someone's going to be a jerk for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then the people who are super talented, I have a knack for convincing them to push harder, do more, bring more to the table, or go with me on some completely insane journey.
Okay, so you're a leader.
I guess that's what that is.
Yeah, okay. And so if we flip that around, what are some of the personality traits like, what's the one personality trait that if somebody has, they should stay away from theater?
Hmm. That is a tough one. If someone has this, stay away from theater. I mean, I guess selfishness,
Okay. Yeah.
because it is such a collaborative art form that if you need to be the center of everything, you're just not going to work out. Like, you have to know how to play well with others. And
Yeah.
so if you really want to be a lone wolf, then take up painting or something. Like, this is not this is not the art form for you.
Well, I figure you'd burn a lot of bridges if you were an extremely selfish person.
Well, gosh, and so there are really talented, very selfish people, and I can watch them on stage and just be blown away. But then I work with them, and then I'm like, oh, never again. I don't care how good they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And if we're talking about you again,
Mm-hmm.
what's one part of your personality that you've struggled with, where you've either had to conform what you're doing or you've had to change yourself to be able to become more successful?
I have the sin of pride. I'm very, very proud.
Mm-hmm.
And that has made it hard for me to ask for help or mentorship in my life. And it makes it hard to admit failure, or admit mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's something that I struggle with constantly, and I work on a lot. I try to tell everyone underneath me that I'm the person who makes the most mistakes in any given day, in any given week. So to try and create an environment where everyone can admit when they make mistakes so that we can all kind of get together. But I'll tell you, that's really hard.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can completely relate to that. I think a lot of people struggle, especially with the word failure being in the past such a bad word. It was like you couldn't tell anybody if you failed.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you realize, I'm sure as a business owner and doing what you love, failure's one of the biggest processes of the whole thing.
And there is no option. You can't go through like, I'd like to do this, but with the no failure option.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
There's
impossible.
no way. There's no way. And if you try not to fail, you keep going. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
there are failures insofar as things that you thought were going to work that just didn't. And it's not because anything went wrong. It just wasn't the right time, or it wasn't the right whatever. And then there are catastrophic mistakes where you look at it and you go, wow, we just we like this person doesn't want to work with us anymore because I just accidentally did this or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then it's like sitting with that and saying, okay, I want to crawl under a rock and die, but I'm not going to. I have to figure out how to improve it and never let that happen again. And that just is so inevitable and it's so hard.
Yes, absolutely. And so, since this is such a unique situation that you've created at Cafe Nordo, what are there are there other places that people can go to? Are there different markets like this? Have you heard about things similar or places that people could look for if they're interested in participating in something like this or making this their career?
Well, there is a pretty, I think, burgeoning new movement, which is this immersive theater thing,
Hmm.
which is where, you're not just looking at a stage, but when you walk in, you really are transported into the world. So we happen to be doing it with food, but the immersion is the most key part of it to us. And that, I mean, the food is it's what sets us apart and makes us different. But the art that we're working so hard on is this immersive theater. So, anything from like Sleep No More in New York, but they're happening everywhere. People are taking over buildings and doing all kinds of weird interactive theater everywhere. And I know it's all over, London with like silent cinema, and I'm trying to think of the other ones in the US, but if you just Google immersive theater in your town name, you'll find something.
I was just going to say, if somebody wanted to get into theater, how
Hmm.
are they going to find those types of jobs? I mean, I'm assuming it's not like some other types where you can go into like Monster, you know what I mean? Where do
Right.
you go?
So every community is different. Here in Seattle, we have an organization called Theater Puget Sound, TPS, that does audition listings and both for casting and for design work.
Hmm.
And then, and I think that most cities have such a thing. When I was living in New York, we always looked at Backstage, but now I'm kind of old. I mean, that was like before the internet when you had to go buy the paper.
Yeah.
Um, now I think that so much of it's done through Facebook even. Like there's a Seattle Theater Makers group on Facebook, and when someone's casting for a particular role, they'll just slap it up there. And so just becoming a part of the community, so where people are starting to hear about things like auditions and design things, and then go to workshops, do whatever you can to just kind of get in front of people and learn.
So networking is going to be your best bet for knowing about
Absolutely.
jobs or finding careers, or I mean that is pretty much the only way you're going to get into this career.
Well, and like with TPS here in Seattle, they do what's called the generals every year, where anybody can come and audition. You just have to have a headshot and a resume and two monologues, and you walk in, and tons of theaters send representatives so that they can just see who might be coming out of school or who has just moved to town. And some actors do it every single year. They go to the generals because you never know what a casting director is going to be looking for this year. So I think that most cities have opportunities like that.
Okay. Okay. And so it just needs to be something that they look through, and social media is probably going to be the most powerful tool for them to find those types of
Yeah,
things.
I think so.
Okay.
And that's for acting. And as far as directing goes, best thing you can do is find a director whose work you like and ask them if you can assist.
And how do you do that? Like I've never taken that step. You know what I mean? I'm not in theater, but let's say that I
Yeah.
was. How am I going to find directors who I can be in contact with? Because of course all of us see these big blockbuster movies, right? And I highly
Hmm.
doubt any of them are going to answer back. So how do you find local directors or people that might be able to be mentors for your journey?
Well, again, I'm in a smaller community than New York City or LA.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier to connect with people in Seattle. But I think it's about this. I mean, I think that anywhere is about the same, which is, and this, I'm not talking about film, I'm talking about theater, which is a much smaller community. But
Are
if
they
you go
similar
and see,
directors or are they different? Like, are you a director of film and then a director of theater?
No, I've never directed a film.
I know, but I mean, are they
Oh,
separated? Like, do people
oh yeah.
direct theater only and film only, and or do
Yes.
they? Okay, so okay, and that's something I didn't know. So they don't split those. They split those up. They're not an all encompassing.
Very, very few directors do both. Like Julie Taymor, who did The Lion King on Broadway, has directed a couple of films. There are a few directors that have kind of transcended the line, but it's a very different skill set.
Okay. Okay. So that's important that's an important distinction because that's something that I did not recognize because I thought that it was very fluid, right? So everyone
Hmm.
in the, theatric type of industry were all kind of in, together, right?
Yeah.
But you're telling me that they're very separate.
At least for directors and designers, like a lighting designer on a film or a scenic designer on a film is doing things in a completely different way than they would for theater.
Okay.
Um, Props designers can sometimes transcend. I've seen them transcend a lot more. But it is such a different process to make a play than it is to make a film. I wouldn't even know where to start making a film. I don't even know what a grip is really. I mean, I kind of have a general idea, but
Sure.
but theater is it's six people in a script in a room, and you work on that for 6 weeks, and then move it into a theater and work with the designers, and then put it up, and it's all that is one kind of set of skills, and then to be doing a film shoot for 3 months and locations and all of that stuff just takes it's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so if somebody's interested in maybe if they're not interested in film, they should maybe look at theater, right? Or
Yeah.
vice versa.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So that's actually really helpful because I did not know that. So, um, okay.
Isn't that funny? Yeah, these things that we just think are, oh, of course. It's always fun to learn new things about industries.
Well, and that's kind of the good thing is because when in doing these interviews, I learn a lot of individual distinctions between jobs, which
Hmm.
you don't know unless you're in that field.
Sure.
I've never been in an arts field at all. I'm on the other side of
Yeah.
the career options, and so I've never even thought about it before. And so it not crossing my mind, my brain just generally groups it together. But it's important because if somebody's interested in this,
Hmm.
they need to understand the distinction between the two. And maybe they're not suited for one or the other.
And actors definitely do both.
Okay.
Actors go out for absolutely for both things.
So they're more fluid.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And so if we're talking about immersive theater, where you're doing the food and acting, what are some of the drawbacks of that career choice?
The money's terrible.
Okay, okay.
That's about the only drawback. Well, the thing about it is if you're in this business, it's because you love it.
Hmm.
So to me, going to work, I work insane hours. I work, gosh, usually 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hour days, all the
Wow.
time.
Wow.
But I love what I do. So it's okay because I really wouldn't rather, there's really nothing I'd rather be doing
Yeah.
than working. That being said, so that's the benefit of it. Like the community's wonderful, the people are wonderful. I think about my quality of life, and other than the fact that, I wish I had money to go on vacations more.
Yeah. And time.
Or yeah, time I don't care about because, like I say, I really love what I do. Yes, time to go on vacation would be nice too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, it's knowing that retirements are going to be hard, and watching, friends struggle with medical bills and things like that. That's the sacrifice of it.
Okay. And so is there a way to supplement it to make it a livable wage? Or is it just kind of you
Most
grind and grind and
people
grind and can't?
who most people who are in the theater business 95% of people who are in either theater or film are supplementing their incomes with other work. And arguably, I am as well, because although all of the work I do is for my theater company, I'm utilizing the skills that I had at all the day jobs I had before.
Okay.
Be from, doing Excel spreadsheets and budgeting to PR and marketing to all of those things that are not my art. They just happen to be for my art, which feels a little better than having to get into pantyhose and show up at an office at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could do a lot of it from the comfort of my home or from my beautiful theater, and most of it's on my own schedule. So that's better. Yeah.
Okay. So what has been your worst day so far?
Oh, gosh. I remember that day. As far as the work goes, the worst day, we started in 2009, and then in 2014, oh gosh, or was it? Yes, 2014, we began negotiations to open up our venue. We had been itinerant up until then. And we had an opening date. We had all the renovations planned. We had, a huge mass of people who had supported us and donated a whole bunch of money to this capital campaign. We raised, for tech, it's not very much money at all, but for theater it is. We raised over $250,000 in like 3 months.
Wow.
To open this place. And unfortunately, we were already in rehearsal for the show that we were going to open with, and the construction got delayed, and so we had to delay. I had to tell the whole cast, like, all this work you've done, we're gonna have to push it off for a few months. And this was in October, and I said, we'll definitely be open in December. And so we started rehearsals back up again in mid-November, and then we got delayed again.
Oh no!
Having to go in and tell those people that they had not taken any other acting jobs for the whole fall, and that we weren't going to be able to. We gave them a little stipend, but nothing like what they would have made if we had opened. And on top of that, just all the sacrifice the work that they hadn't done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having to walk in there with that, 24 case of beer and a bottle of whiskey and say, instead of having rehearsal today,
oh
we're
no,
going to go ahead and postpone this again. And maybe we'll be open in the spring. People were just devastated, and we were devastated, and people didn't understand why, or, it was the worst.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So if we flip that and bring it back to a happier note, what is the best day so far?
There have been a lot of really good days. There's nothing as satisfying as a sold out show where everyone's just absolutely joyous. But hosting our composer and one of our musicians' wedding at our theater, and just having this absolute outpouring of joy and love and community, and having the place for that to happen because of all the hard work we put in. So it was so ours. And that was a lovely, lovely day.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be a lot of fun. Yeah. Satisfactory. You feel good about what you've accomplished.
Yes, and it was a celebration of all of the work that we had done together to create this magical venue full of music and food and light, and yeah.
Very cool. What do you love most about what you do?
The easiest thing to say is the wonderful, talented people that I work with. Second easiest thing to say is the look of, mystified joy on our audience when they walk out. But my favorite thing really is that the few days before we start to preview a show are what we call tech, and that's where we are all just in the theater we call them 10 out of 12 because the actors are all in for 10 hours out of 12. So it goes like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Oh, wow.
It's when all of the designers are there, musicians, actors, the lights, the set, the costumes, everything comes together, and we work just like minute by minute through the show to create beautiful moments. And there have been like 3 or 4 where in tech, the music and the lights and the actors, they just like create a magical moment that I'm like, that's the best thing I've ever done, And there are a few of those that just fill me with a lot of joy. Yeah. And then I get to see them play out within the context of the show over and over again. But something about that dark, quiet, super focused room where everyone is just working together to make a moment absolutely magical.
So it's almost like you get to take a step back and actually see everything you've created.
Yeah.
Very
and
cool.
All the different art that I get to work with, visual and performance and music and all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How did your life change when you opened Cafe Nordo?
Well, when we got the venue, and it was when I went full time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I guess I went full time when we started fundraising for the venue. That was when I went full time. But the little things that changed were that all of my time became my own in a way, even though all my time is really Nordo's. It's I'm the one who decides when meetings happen or when I'm a night person. This sounds so like trivial, but I am a night owl.
Sure.
And not having to get up in the morning ever for anything was an amazing life change. Like I never have meetings before noon. They never happen. And that, like, being able to own that and say, I get up at like 9 or 10 and then I tinker around for a while and then I scoot on down to work. And not having that kind of social pressure of having an 8 a.m. meeting and just being like this, I will never go to bed before 2. I have never in my life. I never will, I'm sure. Like, so that being in control of that, it sounds so small. But also, just being accountable. And so that's the positive is like that I get to choose, how my life works, but also I am accountable to so many more people because now people are depending on me for their livelihood.
Yeah.
Gotta pay the bills. So any time mistakes are made, like a show doesn't do very well or doesn't reflect what we want to put forward, that the stress of that is not just, oh shoot, I'm going to disappoint my boss because I don't have a boss. It's, oh shoot, I'm not serving my company well.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you currently have any expansion plans?
We are in a trial period of taking over a basement venue that's in our building. So if that all works out, we'll have a cabaret space and a rehearsal space down there, as well as our theater upstairs. And then, we're still dreaming big. We would like to, in the next 5 years, expand to a full kind of building situation where it's less of a sit-down experience and more of a progressive dining experience where you walk from room to room and each room is a different art installation that has a different feel and that. So that's kind
of wow, yeah, that's very
cooking
cool.
Up.
Yeah, you've got some stuff going, some things to look forward to.
Yeah.
So we've kind of gone through what it means to work in theater and entertainment. And so I just have a few more questions for you. Mm-hmm. What did you want to be when you were a kid?
Before I wanted to be an actor, or in the theater. I wanted to be an artistic director of a theater by the time I was probably 16 or 17. And I wanted to be an actor by the time I was probably 12. And before that, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Oh, so it changed very abruptly.
I don't know. I just, I didn't think it was possible. I didn't
Sure.
understand that it was possible to have a life in the theater and for that to be your job. And
Yeah.
I liked animals.
Yeah. So yeah.
Um, once I started realizing it was possible, then I was pretty singularly focused on that after that.
Yeah. Okay. What's the best piece of business advice you've ever received?
It was from my acting teacher, Robert Bella, maybe the first day of acting school at NYU. And he said, look around at the people that are around you right now, the people that are sitting next to you. You're all acting students. Um, Recognize that it's not the Martin Scorseses that are going to give you the job. It's these people. They're going to become playwrights and directors and producers. And it's your relationships with them now that will provide you with your livelihood later. So be really nice to them.
Yeah.
And that really stuck in my head, even though I was one of the ones that became the director who casts people and gives people jobs. He was right. And just that attitude of not trying to reach always up for opportunity, but rather out for opportunity.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that probably comes in because you never know who's going to become or who is somebody. I
You
think, and Seattle's a really good example of that because we have some very high up people who dress crazily like they shouldn't.
oh my gosh, yes.
I've learned that living here because I've known more millionaires who like dress like they're homeless than anything else. It's pretty crazy.
I had a friend who was giving a tour, who used to work at KUOW, the local NPR station, and they were giving a tour to someone, and I won't say who it was wouldn't say which mayor, but they walked by the green room and they said, and and there's the mayor, and then they kept walking, and the person thought that they were joking and that it was the janitor, but they called him the mayor.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. That's so
Isn't
funny.
that so perfectly Seattle?
It really is. So I think I agree, that's I think that's great advice no matter where you're at or who or
Absolutely.
what industry you're in because you never know who's going to make it. You never know who people are.
And the people who step on you on the way up, you will not lend them a hand when they're on the way down, you know?
Correct. Yeah. And kindness always wins. I mean,
Absolutely.
and so on an end note, what would you say to somebody who's currently discouraged in their job or who hates what they're doing?
Oh, there is just life is too short to hate what you're doing. And I know that the biggest blessing I've ever been given in my life is that I've been super passionate about one thing for forever, and that's just a gift. But finding that thing that you're passionate about and knowing that um, money and financial comforts don't necessarily make you happy, don't necessarily make for a happy life.
Yeah.
I don't know. We just don't have time to be miserable 8 hours a day in our jobs. And likewise, because I know that your main audience is younger people. Um, if you're doing whatever the shitty job is,
Yeah.
um, if there's an end goal to that, because I certainly had my fair share of terrible jobs, but it was always it was always either to learn a skill that I wanted to apply to what I really wanted to do,
Hmm.
or to make money so that I could do, theater in the evenings or whatever. If there's a means to an end, that's one thing. And actually, I really encourage younger folks to stick it out in a job that they're not super happy with, in order to make other things happen.
Sure.
But if you're looking long term at a career that is just making you miserable, then shake it off. Take the risk of being poor for a little while so you can figure out how it happens. Because I don't know, I'm poor. I'm happy.
Yeah, yeah. Money is not everything. That is the truth.
It's certainly not.
All right. Well, thank you, Erin, for chatting with me today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
If you like this episode or you're looking to change your career, go to 28andsearching.com or become a patron to get exclusive content sent directly to you. See you next week.